All right. Welcome, everybody. Appreciate everyone being here on another edition of our Member Spotlight. We are joined today by Hannah Whitaker and Hunter Henderson. So what's up, guys? Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to start off with Hannah. Hannah, you're an assistant coach at Spartanburg Methodist College in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Tell us how you let's back up and start at the jump. How did you tell us a little bit about your basketball background and how you decided to get into coaching?
Well, my journey is a little different than others because I kind of took a year off after playing. So I played for 4 years at the collegiate level, 2 at JUCO in Dodge City, Kansas, and then 2 at a Division II in Oklahoma, Panhandle State. And then I kind of followed an education path after that, just to kind of see where I wanted to go. Because at that point, I had to move out of mom and dad's house and get my life together. So I realized that that was not the path for me. And so I actually sporadically moved from Kansas to Texas with a former teammate of mine. And I reached out to a coach that I played under. He was an old assistant, Matt Creamer, is at Chipola. And I was like, listen, I feel like I belong in the game of basketball. I'm always migrating towards it. Everybody's wanting me to help out or train their kids or, do personal player development. And so I was like, this is just where I feel like I need to be. And so he was like, well, let me see what I can do. To help you out. And I actually had a small thing set up in Texas with a coach who did similar to AAU, but not quite. It was just a low key private thing. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call that was like, hey, my buddy in Walterboro, South Carolina is starting a new program, has a volunteer position. Do you want it? And I was like, well, I guess, this is going to be my only opportunity to get in the door. And I know that it's not easy to take this path. So let me not shut out any opportunity, even though it's volunteer. So I interviewed with that coach and I ended up at USC Salk my first year. And then second year coaching, I transitioned into working with Coach Macy. And I started out as her video coordinator. And then about a month later, I was her right-hand man and we rolled through the rest of the season. And I think we ended up pretty well. And now here we are at season 2 with Coach Macy here at Spartanburg.
That's awesome. All right. So before we get into the coaching stuff, we ask everybody this. Give us a scouting report for you as a player.
Woo! I was a defensive player. As a freshman, I always brag about this. As a freshman, I was nationally ranked in rebounds, and I'm only 5'9". So I was super athletic, top 10 in the nation. And so that's what kind of carried me through college athletics. And then as I went on to my 4th year, I was ranked 3rd in our conference in blocks, the most blocks that we had. And we played against real kids, 6'3", 6'4" girls. And so I was like, look, I'm just a defensive player. I can't score the ball, but I will get you the rebound and I will give it back.
Yeah, I love the self-awareness. You know who you are. You're not trying to do anything you can't do.
That's right.
You're just focused on the defensive end. What position? 4?
I was a 5, a power forward, yes. At
Undersized
5'9".
5?
Oh my gosh, way undersized.
That's awesome. So talk about that year, where you were out, and you felt like the game was calling you back, so to speak.
Well,
was there a moment that it hit you that you were like, I got to get back in?
Yeah, for sure. I was actually in the library studying for a test, and a few of the basketball players came in and said, you will never believe what happened. And I'm like, no, okay, what's up? And they were like, our basketball coach just quit middle of the season. And I said, well, that sounds unfortunate. And they said, well, it sounds like you could probably help, right? Like, I think they're going to let the assistant step up, but she might need some help. And I was like, well, I don't know. I haven't, I played last year, but I don't know if I'm ready to do that, if that's, where I want to be, if this is the level I want to be at. And my school schedule is really demanding. So there was no way that it was going to be able to happen with the two of them. But I felt like that was the moment that I was like, opportunities are going to be knocking at your door. So you need to reach out to the people and see what you can, get wrangled up. Because I feel like this is where you need to be. Because that was where I was the most happiest.
Okay, so you realize like your passion for coaching and your opportunity that you get is a volunteer one. Like, what was that interview like? Were you going into the interview like, man, this is crazy? Or and then you were like blown away by, the opportunity? Or were you just hungry to, get started with anything?
I think I was for sure just hungry to get started with anything. Like Coach Creamer, he did a really good job of saying, like, this is not the kind of field that you're going to just walk into and have a Chipola assistant coaching job. Like, you're going to have to grind for a little bit. And so he called, the head coach of that team at the time called, and we did the interview, and he said, listen, there's not much I can do for you. Like, I could possibly get you housing at a discount, but that's going to be about like the highlight of it all. He said, you're going to have to work another full-time job, but then you're my only assistant, so I'm going to need you to be dedicated. And I was like, well, okay, I guess this is what I need to do. So I called my mom and I'm like, Mom, I'm moving. I'm from Kansas. So I'm like moving halfway across the world to go work for free in this game of basketball. And so just wish me luck. So I packed up in the middle of the summer and left.
That's awesome. What was like that first year like in terms of, was it awesome? You're getting to coach ball at that level. And then also like how did you juggle like having to work a full-time job on the side and still have time to do what you love?
So it was definitely a struggle for sure because I came from different style coaches than who I worked for. And so he was more of the, X's and O's, the strategy. And I played for coaches who are more of like, this is where I want you to be, so be here. Like, don't ask why, just do what I ask. So it was a lot different for me to be able to mentor girls being coached under somebody like that because I wasn't. And the age as well. Like, I started at 22 and I got kids coming in. They're like, yeah, I'm turning 21 next month. And I'm like, well, so it was a lot of transition, but I definitely had really good people on my side. Eric Simpkin, he's a part of Rising Coaches. The men's team or coaching staff helped me out a lot. And then my head coach was really supportive. Look, there's Eric there. They were really supportive as well as far as helping me learn some of the things that I didn't. But I'm also super organized and I just work hard. It's just something that's embedded in me. So if he asked me to do something, I would do everything I could to make sure I got it done at the best way that I could. And as far as my work schedule, I was sure that I worked overnights. So I would work 11 p to 7 a. And then I would get up about, I'd say 10, 11 o'clock and go in the gym. And then I would be in the gym until about 7, 8, take a little power nap, and then go back to work. And I would just do that through the whole season. And kind of, I got work to agree to work with my game schedule. So if you schedule me, to work this day, can I just switch it with somebody because I'll be out of town, or I'll pick up an extra day to work. And that's kind of how I simultaneously worked everything.
Okay, we got to talk about this. I know a lot of people who have like done the full-time job and coached, but they usually work like 6 a.m. to noon or something. But you were working what? 11 p.m. to 6 a.m.?
Yeah, it's 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So what we
break down the sleep schedule again. So you're
okay.
sleeping at 7 a.m. to like 11?
Yes. And then I would be in the gym all day. We never left the gym. We would go get lunch and come back. And so I would be in the gym. So we had the late practice, 4 to 6. So after practice, I would make sure the laundry was done. That I'd get that done in about an hour. In that time is when I'm trying to work on a scout or work out a player, or, you know, we had kids from the community working out. So then I would go home about 7, sleep from 7 to 11 or 10:30, and then go to work 11 p to 7 a. And I would do that almost every day.
And you were able to function?
I guess I
I
pushed
wouldn't be able to
through.
do that. That's, I
Yeah,
gotta
and
have
it was sleep. Yeah, I guess I became accustomed to it, and then it became a point where I did class checks. So I'd get off of work, go do class checks, then go home and sleep, and then go back to the gym after about 3 or 4 hours.
have you always been like a night owl?
I did it in high school, so yeah. I mean, I can pretty much accustom to whatever you ask me to accustom to.
So you
It was
worked a
just,
graveyard shift when you were in high school too?
mhm,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
great. Impressive. And you did that this past year at Spartanburg too, right?
Yeah, so Spartanburg, similar situation, volunteer spot. And so I actually lived 30 minutes away from the campus. And so there were games that I would literally get off at 7:30 and go straight to shoot around. And then I would be up all day to do the game. And then I would go home, sleep for like 3 hours, and then go back to work. And then Coach Macy would give me the next day off so I can get my life together. But yeah.
Hannah, what are you going to do when you get like an actual full-time paying basketball job, like, and you actually have nights off?
I'm not gonna know what to do. Even now, when I'm like up at home, because I still work part-time now. And even when I'm home and it's just me and my dog, I'm up till like 4 in the morning, like watching film, doing emails, checking players' paperwork, whatever. And I'm just like, maybe I should be asleep, but I guess not.
Wow, crazy. Sounds like you're just wired like that, where you don't require too much sleep, which is
Right.
awesome. Okay, tell us what it was like working for, obviously we know Heather Macy very well, from 2 Feet In Coaching with Heather. Shout out to her and her show, Thursdays at
Yes.
11 a.m. What's it like working for her?
Well, I love it. I really do. I know that she comes from a high level of coaching. She's done it for years. And when I first started, I was like, there's no way I'm going to make it. Second year in the game, brand new, basically, because I took a year off and it's a whole new coaching style. And I went in and she's like, listen, I just need you to work hard for me. She said, if you don't know something, ask and I'll help you through it. But I just need you to work hard for me. And she said, we're going to rock out this season and we're going to win a national championship, which we didn't do, but we're on the right track. We're on the right track. And so it kind of was hard to transition from one school to the other, because when I was unsure or when I made a mistake, she was right there by my side to say, well, you know, next time this is what I recommend. Or, you know, when you go to do this, this is how I would do it. And so it really built me a lot in 1 year, because she was super understanding, and appreciative of the fact that I was willing to learn instead of being so focused on, you know, kind of my shortcomings.
Yeah, and she talks about it all the time and wrote a book about it. She's like trained in EQ, right? Emotional
Mm-hmm.
intelligence. So I'm
Yes.
assuming you've gotten like a little crash course in it. Um,
Yes.
can you talk a little bit about like that and how you guys use it like with your team?
Yeah. So when she first told me about it, I wasn't sure what it was. And basically what it is being in tune with your emotions. And so a good example is, I work at night and you can get really frustrated when you have lack of sleep. And so I come in the gym and 6 of my players aren't ready for shoot around. And I just got off of work. So I just worked 8 hours and I'm ready to go. And they're just sitting there laughing. So my EQ would be, okay, assess the situation. Don't get frustrated, you know, just reroute them. Let's not project my frustration on them so that they become frustrated because now they're not prepared for the game. And so basically what it's doing is it's being in tune with how you react to certain situations and understanding what your reaction will cause. And so the way we do it with our players is, I specifically remember this, is they have a reset button. And so one of our girls' reset buttons was rubbing her tattoo that she had on her arm. And so she was in the game and they were just really sitting on her left hand because she struggled with it. And Coach Macy said, "Be mad, reset." And she touched her tattoos and it was like defense wasn't even there. So we just kind of trained them the whole season on how to do little things like that. If they had a bad day in class, she said, "Are you going to let one moment ruin 6 other moments that you have coming up?" She said, "You just got to take it. You got to, come to terms with it. And then you got to let it go until you have the time to sit and focus on that one thing. But you can't have a bad test and then come in and have a bad practice, because your bad practice now affects the rest of the team because we need you." So that's kind of how we incorporate it. And so doing that has helped us as a staff. And then it helps me be better in everything: recruiting, player development, scouting. I'm able to kind of tell a little bit more how to react and how to guide the girls than I would before.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What's your reset button, Hannah?
My reset, I think I close my eyes and just kind of like woo-saw. Like I'm just like, and then all the girls know, okay, Coach Hannah's getting a little frustrated. Let's just give her a break. And then I'm good after that.
That's awesome. So is this something that you definitely take with you, like, throughout your career and life, I guess, right?
Yeah. So actually right now I'm pursuing my doctorates in mental health counseling. And we talk a lot about EQ. And so I just figured that I would kind of follow in Coach Macy's footsteps and go ahead and see what steps I needed to take to be trained in that, because I think it'll help me in my degree as well as in my career.
That's awesome. You left that part out. You just casually mentioned you're getting your doctorate. So like,
Yes.
what are you planning to do with your doctorate? Or just
So sports psychology was my original plan. But then I listened to one of Coach Macy's podcasts, and she had a sports psychologist on there, and she said, "I want to be able to counsel the same kid from diagnosis all the way through therapy. And you can't do that just with your sports psychology degree. You have to have your doctorates." And so I went ahead and changed my program in the middle of my semester, actually, and went ahead and pursued that. And so as I'm going through this process, if I get the chance to elevate and become an assistant, a full-time assistant, or even take over my own team, I'm going to, of course, take that opportunity. But ultimately, once I finish school, I still want to be a part of the game of basketball, but more on the mental side, because I feel like a lot of players don't always get that kind of advocate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very impressive. I didn't know that, Hannah. So let me ask you this. So what's like next for you? Obviously, like Spartanburg Methodist, I'm sure you love it there with Coach Macy, but you are at that like entry level phase of the career. So you got to like continue to move up at some point,
Right.
salary increases, all that. So like, what's like your ideal like next step? What are you looking for?
Well, ideally, I want to stay with Coach Macy. I know everybody's like, you can't stay with her forever, but she's done a lot in this game, and she's done a lot for me. And so I feel like as she moves up, we'll kind of do it together. Like even if, next year, say she got a D1 coaching job, and she was like, you can come with me, or I can help you take over, or whatever. I feel like I want to be guided by her. So I think ultimately next year, my goal for sure is to be a full-time assistant. And if I can do that with Coach Macy, I will. But if not, I know she'll guide me to the right spot on where I need to be with the knowledge of allowing me to be open to making my own decision, but also saying like, this was the career path that I took, and this is something I would recommend for you at being so young.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, Hannah, what advice or what have you found to be like the most important thing or best piece of advice you've gotten, or what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's coaching?
My best piece of advice would be to take care of yourself too. We get so consumed in our players and winning, winning and the scouts and all of our duties as being assistants or being head coaches. We wear multiple hats. And I feel like sometimes we kind of get misconstrued with what social media is like. You never sleep, you got to grind it out, go to bed at 2 and wake up at 6 and start all over. Not everybody can function that way. And so I think my advice would be take the time to understand that your mental health matters just as much as the mental health of your players, because you can't be the best you if you're mentally exhausted.
Yes, I love that. I wish more coaches had that mindset. So keep preaching that, and we'll do the same.
Yes.
All right, last thing, Hannah, book or podcast recommendation or both?
Well, podcast recommendation, I'm obviously going to recommend 2 Feet In podcast, because she's interviewing every type of person that you can think of, and they're giving advice from their downfall. She's interviewing people that have been through career trauma and they're bouncing back. And so I definitely would recommend that. And then book, I read the Kobe Bryant book. Of course, I'm sure everybody did when everything happened. And I read it and I was just like, he really grinded it out, but he did it, to the capacity of what his career level was. But it opened my eyes to see that you've got to give the all yourself. You can't ask somebody to bring something out of you that you're not going to be willing to bring out of yourself. And so that's a book that I think we should read to take the lessons out of. People read it and they're like, oh, he was the greatest of all time. But I read it and said, he sacrificed what he had to sacrifice, being away from his daughters or being in the gym extra or being injured. He took that time to, even though he wasn't always a part, to maximize the time and the moment that he was in.
Yes. Like the most intentional human being ever.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for doing this. I want to open it up for questions. If anybody who's on the Zoom has a question for Hannah, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hannah, what would you say, I guess, fuels you every day? I mean, because that's pretty impressive, just the schedule that you have. What gets you up every day to keep on pushing forward, keep on striving towards your goal?
Well, I'm very spiritual, and I always tell myself when I get frustrated, God has got a plan for you. So just don't give up. But I also recently lost my dad. And so going through that, it was just like you complain about doing things or you get frustrated, but what would he want to do if he was here? So you've got to do for you what he can't do for himself, because he wouldn't want to see you just stop and take a different route because things get a little tough. And so I think that obviously my faith, but the motivation of the people that I've lost, my family members, are what keep me pushing through.
Awesome.
All right. Any other questions for Hannah before we let her go?
Hey, I got a question.
Hi, Dakota.
Hi. Hannah, sorry to hear about your dad's loss. That's tough. My question is, how has that psychology and kind of like mental health counseling helped you be a better coach? Like, in what ways has that helped you, and how do you incorporate that in your approach?
I definitely, instead of getting so one-track minded, of, you came here just to play basketball and that's what we've got to do, I take the time to be a shoulder for them to kind of cry on, and so if I see that somebody's going through something and they're like, I'm not going to talk to you, I don't want to, I'm like, what can I do to help? So instead of getting frustrated, and a lot of people be like, well, if you don't talk to me, what are you going to do? You can't bottle it up. I just kind of take the time to say, what can I do to help you? If I'm not the one, help me help you find the one. And it's helped me be more patient and more understanding with them, and respect their emotions, because sometimes we forget that we ask them to go through a lot: school, full-time basketball, traveling, having to adapt with classes. Now we have COVID. And so I try to take the time to understand, if I was in their position, what would I need? And I think that's kind of helped me be better for them.
All right. Well, Hannah, again, thank you so much. Great job. Super impressive. So we appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, let's slide over and visit with Hunter. Hunter, what's up, man?
What's going on? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We talked about it before, but I'm digging the coronavirus beard. Looks
Hey, yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So yeah, same thing, Hunter. Why don't you tell us a little bit? You're currently at NC State. I think you got a promotion and title, right? Director of Scouting now.
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. So tell us, like how you got started in basketball and coaching, and a little bit about your path.
Yeah. So I grew up in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I grew up playing basketball. My dad used to describe me, I was the guy that never met a shot he didn't like. So yeah, grew up played in high school. And after I graduated high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I had gotten accepted to a couple universities, but I ended up going to Cape Fear Community College in Wilmington. And, I asked my high school coach, can I help out coaching, next year? He said, I'd love to have you. And so like in the summer, I coached like the JV team. And then it was like a weekend. I'm like, man, this is kind of what I think I'm called to do. My high school coach had really impacted my life. And so that's kind of why I wanted to get into coaching, to impact young men's lives. And so I was at Cape Fear for 2 years and working and coaching at my high school with the JV and varsity team. And after a year or so, I was trying to figure out how I could get into college and try to do it at the highest level. And I picked NC State. That was the only school that I applied to outside from junior college, because they had sport management. I never really grew up an NC State fan, but they had sport management. And I was like, if this whole coaching thing doesn't work out, I definitely want to do something in sports. I grew up playing basketball and baseball and surfing, and just really played a little bit of everything, soccer. And so I knew sports is probably something that I wanted to be in. And so applied to NC State and ended up getting in. I was contacting the coaching staff. I didn't really get any responses from them. I was probably contacting them for a few months. And I finally got in contact with their ops guy, Jeff Dunlap, and he said, well, you need to get into school, and then once you get into school, you can work our camps all summer, and that'll kind of be at your trial period. We'll see what kind of person you are, how you interact with the players, what your work ethic's like, and things of that nature. So I worked camps all summer. And
The old camp audition, huh? They threw you in the camp circuit.
Yeah, the old camp audition. So I worked camps all summer, driving back and forth from Wilmington, and driving back and forth for workouts and things of that nature. And I started in like June, and it gets to July, and I'm like, am I going to get the job or not? And so I found out the first week of school that I had gotten the job as a manager. And so yeah, that was really exciting. And so yeah, I was a manager at NC State for 3 years. head manager my senior year, and I was blessed to be able to help out with a lot of scouting. We had 2 GAs my first 2 years, and then one of them got a job, Ben Asher. He's now at Rutgers as the director of basketball operations. And Taylor Johnson was there. He's now assistant coach at Grand Valley, a school up in Michigan. But so I kind of stepped into that role that Ben was in. And it was just an awesome opportunity. So thankful really to got in, and be able to have that, learn how to do Photoshop and learn how to scout and just all types of different things. And
Hunter, who was the head coach at NC State at that time?
Coach Godfrey.
It was Coach Godfrey. Okay. And how did you I was a manager, but I was a manager at a small D2, and it was like me and one other kid, and that was it. So we got to do a little bit of everything. But I know at the Power 5 level, how many managers did you guys have? Like 10?
No, it was different. Coach didn't like to have a bunch of managers. So I think my first 2 years we had 6, and then my last year we had 4. He liked it small.
So how were you able to make that transition from typical manager duties to now you're helping with graphics with Photoshop, helping with scouting? How did you manage that?
I think I was always in the office. I would wake up, I would go into the office. If I would try to have all my classes first thing, 8 a.m. If I had to have a 9 or a 10 or whatever, then I would go in the morning, go to class, come back. But that was something that I always had done, even my first year. So the staff knew me, they trusted me. I was able to, I helped run the camps, even as a manager. I was very involved in that. And so I think just being around, they felt comfortable with me. And I guess I worked well.
Nice. All right. So you're the head manager your senior year, you graduate, and then what happens?
So so one thing I didn't mention, so Coach Keats had gotten the job at UNC Wilmington. One summer, it was my second summer. I went back to Wilmington because I had to have an internship. And I went back to Wilmington to work with the Wilmington Sharks. It's a wooden bat league. College players come and play baseball for the summer. And so another great opportunity for me. There's a general manager, and I knew him quite well. My brother and his son had played baseball and sports and stuff together. So he gave me a great opportunity. I mean, I helped him kind of run the show. I was helping him with marketing stuff. I was helping him with, I was the on-field promotions guy. So I was the guy that was, talking in between innings. And I got people to throw out the first pitch, people to sing the national anthem. When Coach Keats got the job, I got him to throw out the first pitch at the game. And so that's how I met Coach Keats. I told him I was a manager, and so built a relationship with Coach Keats over a couple of years. Every time I was in town, I would just stop by the office or try to stop by practice. And so, yeah, just build a relationship with him. And then a year, I guess really after knowing him, I said, Coach, I think college coaching is what I want to get into. If you have a graduate assistant spot open next year, I would love to apply for it. And he said, yeah, that'd be great. Just contact me. We'll talk at the end of the season. So they had a GA. He was the first year, and he was going to have another year. But he actually decided to get out of the business. And I contacted Coach, and, we kind of talked. And meanwhile, I'm having to hold off Coach Godfrey. They wanted me to stay as a GA there. And if you look at things, it's a lot of money, a lot more money. I'm getting full scholarship, everything paid for. I mean, it's just a whole different level. But I just felt like Wilmington was a good place for me to go. I'd have a chance to maybe move up quicker, get under different staff, and it just I felt at peace. It was kind of I was in limbo there for a few months, which was very interesting time. But yeah, I felt at peace with the situation, and I ended up coach ended up calling me a few weeks after. It was like the end of April, and he hired me, and so I got there in May, and I was working camps that summer. I was working the Jay Billis Clemson camp, which Lucas well, and then NC State's camps. And a month in, while I'm working those camps, our director of basketball operations leaves, and he gets a job as an assistant coach at Chattanooga. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. I might, if the video guy gets bumped up, I might have a shot at this video spot. And so I called Coach. I said, Coach, look, if you need me to come back to Wilmington, I can come. I'll stop working camps. And he said, no, go make your money and do that. And it was I guess about 3 months. Travis, who's now an assistant at Wilmington, he was a video guy. He got bumped up to the op spot, and then I was able to get the video spot. Funny story, Travis actually had his first child, and I was helping run our camps, which at Wilmington when I had gotten back in August. Travis had his first child, and so he was out for a few days. He started camp, and I think we had 3 or 4 days left, and I was able to step in and run the camps. And I think that's really what ended up getting me the job. I was able to have that experience working camps and helping run them at NC State. And, I ended up getting the job as a video guy. I probably was not qualified. We used Exos at NC State, and then we used Sport Code at UNCW. And so it was just it was definitely a transition for me. And I was kind of thrown in the fire, but major blessing, and learned a lot, and still learning. And 8 months later, Coach got the job at NC State, and he said he wanted to take him with him. And so I go back to NC State, and I've been there for 3 years now. I was the assistant video guy, and now I'm the director of scouting. And so, just finished year 3 back at NC State. Honestly, never thought I would be back, but here we are. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, Hunter. I was just told, my wife just came in and told me that there's a snake in our kitchen.
Okay.
So I'm gonna run. Brandon's gonna take over the interview, but I do want to ask this before I leave, and I apologize. This is a new one for me. But can you talk a little bit about Coach Keats and like what makes him unique and successful, and kind of what you've learned from him? And I'll look forward to hearing your answer on the replay.
Okay. Yeah. Coach Keats, he's a special guy. He's really good with people. He's really good at having a great relationship with his players, and being able to coach them on and off the floor. The atmosphere around our program is always light. He's always joking and stuff. And I mean, he plays 2K and ping pong with the players, and after practice every day and before. And he's just really good at creating an atmosphere of family, and just really good at motivating guys. And so he's been great to learn from in that aspect.
Hunter, I apologize if you already covered a little bit of this. I missed the beginning of your presentation here, but quick question for you regarding your just growth within the profession and your different experiences and how it's helping you now. So, for example, you were a former manager. How does that help you manage the support staff, the managers, within the coaching staff at NC State?
I think, I want to be a head coach one day. And so being a manager, I think I want to know how to do every role. And so I think being a manager and seeing things from the bottom level and, helping the coaches with whatever they need and walking alongside them in recruiting and just whatever they need, anybody that's in the office, whatever they can help with. I went to school at NC State, so, I'm able to help people in that retrospect. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just being available and, not really, when somebody asks you to do something or just have things ready before they need to be ready. And just always be thinking ahead.
That's perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Hunter?
Hunter, I have a question for you. It might not even be a question, but my name's Cody Killen, by the way. We've never officially met, but we've crossed paths on Zooms and things like that.
Cody, nice.
I was the video coordinator at Murray State, so I kind of know what you've gone through and things like that. Can you talk to just about your approach to the video spot for people who haven't been in that position before? Because there's a lot of guys who, just friends of mine who aren't interested in that side because they don't want to sit behind a computer all day. But if you like, I took a different approach to it, and I'm sure you did too. If you love it, it can actually be a great spot to where you're learning about recruiting, scouting, developing your own philosophy for how you evaluate guys, things like that. So if you can kind of just expand upon that and how you approach the job.
Yeah. Man, I think, if you want to learn about the game of basketball, you need to be, a video coordinator is a great resource and a great place to start. I don't really count up the games, but if I were to guess, I probably watch between our games and then opponents' games. I probably watch 250 games, a season. You just get to learn so much about what other people do. You get to learn, kind of develop your philosophy of what, kind of like you talked about. But then also as a video coordinator, with our staff, I'm pretty blessed because I create the video scouts and I'll meet with the assistant and we converse on what we think we need to portray to the team. Obviously, I cannot present to the team. But, I create the personnel edits, the offensive edits and defensive edits and come up with how we're going to guard and then what we need to do offensively against teams. And then it's also, when we get into games, I pretty much know most play calls for the other team. And so, that's really rewarding when you do your job and, you put all that time in and you get into that 2-hour window and they call 5 up out and it's a flat ball screen or it's a screen to screener action or whatever the action is. That's really rewarding. And then in regards like recruiting and stuff like that, I'm able to learn a lot just from our staff. I actually was talking to our staff this morning, our assistants, about some things that we wanted to do with in regards to sending out recruits and how we can do stuff a little bit different to make them feel a little bit more special and I think stand out from other people. So yeah, just being a video coordinator, it's at least who I work for, coaches, we don't really have any egos on our staff. And so it's I think being a video coordinator is awesome, except for, being on the floor. I want to be on the floor at some point. So.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cody, good question, man. Anybody else have anything for Hunter?
Yeah, I have a question. I know that getting into the game or kind of following a path that some might not see as important, right? Because everybody sees coaching as like the only thing that a program has, and it takes so many pieces. You said that you continuously reached out to the staff, and it took a long time for you to get an answer. How did you handle that in as far as like staying motivated enough to continue to keep trying and not get discouraged?
Yeah. I think I've always been kind of a resilient person. And so if I have my mind set on something, I'm going to pursue it. And so, yeah, I just kept pursuing it. And, I didn't really feel like I had anything to lose. I think sometimes pride can be our worst enemy. And so, yeah, I just continued to pursue that goal that I had in mind.
All right. Great job, Hunter. Appreciate it, man. Any parting thoughts you have for us? Anything else you want to share before we let you go here?
Not really. I think I think one thing that I try to is or like something a quote that I don't know where I got it from, but know your role, be a star in your role, and and stay in your role. So, yeah.
That's perfect, man. Well, great job, Hannah. Great job this morning as well. Thank you guys for being here. Judging by the fact that Adam has not returned, I'm going to guess we're going to cancel office hours. If anybody's joining late, Adam may have a snake in his house, so he's dealing with that. I don't think it's a occurrence that happens very often here. So, but Hannah, Hunter, thanks again, and appreciate everything that you guys are doing within the Rising Coaches community, and look forward to obviously following your guys' careers. And if we can ever continue to be a resource for you guys, please let us know.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
All right. See you, Anna. See you, Brandon.
See ya.